I have a belief the majority of people, when they put stuff online, that's not their true intention. They're looking, that's what they know is going to be seen.
Yeah.
So how much of that is accurate? Probably very little bit.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
true.
may help you out with some insight, but it's truly not, given into it.
All right, we're back. Another episode of Expandable.
Good morning.
Good morning. I got a question for you. We were talking about this previously. How can small businesses use AI for expansion? And, feel free to give your insights on how you're using it. I can tell you kind of how I'm using it. And then we'll go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT.
To me, the first thing is on a small business is so much of it is in your head. You kind of know what to do. And the more you have it down, the old school paper or, in a Word doc, systematic procedures, and policies and things you're doing. Because the first thing you want to do, if you haven't hired anyone, when you do hire one, it's going to be on-the-site job training. Small businesses are always on-the-site job training.
Right.
We are here on-site job training.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, like to pull away from that to where you have a lot of training before they're on the job. And you still learn. You're going to learn the most while you're on the job, but at least you kind of get the basics. So I think immediately the AI, they can start putting in and procedures out, because it's kind of hard. You've never started. How do I do a procedure? Okay, I need procedures. Here, your steps.
Yeah.
And then, hey, here are my steps of what I'm accomplishing.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I do it. Please put that in a procedure manual. Boom.
Okay, so you could start as simply as, we don't have any procedures, so how do we even create procedures, and start asking ChatGPT, like, how do you create a procedure manual? And it'll tell you. And then you say, okay, give me a template of a procedure manual that gets you started, gives you a structure.
And it gets you thinking.
And you say, here's my role,
steps,
here's what I do, here's how we operate. Can you start to help me put together procedures for my role? That's how you could really start from scratch.
Yes.
And then you pick it up from there. What are you advising people to say at that point now? What's the next step do you take to start creating procedures for a particular role?
For that, I mean, it's 2 steps. Is it a role that you've already have out there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you sit with the individual that's doing it and you log exactly what they're doing. And I mean, put time frames on it.
Yeah.
Log, okay, they started this at one time, took 30 minutes.
Okay.
How often is that going to be done? Is it not going to be scaled? Can that speed up? Hey, ChatGPT, we're doing this cast of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you know of any way to reduce the speed and efficiency and compliance? Because,
Play around with it.
yes,
Yeah.
try to scale and enhance the individuals that you have to get more out of everybody that is there.
Yeah. And of course, procedures are great, because if that person goes away, the next person comes in, they can be trained on those procedures and be up and running very quickly.
Yes. And ultimately, I think that's what takes a large, long-term, company that just has a going engine, you know. People can walk in that role and they're like, oh, I know what to do because it's procedural. And that's where we're working at. I mean,
I think too.
Can't wait to get to the size where you've got like your own training programs, your own system here.
Yeah. Which is very doable. But I mean, maybe this is what you're saying too. I'm just saying it again, but I think that the bottleneck that a lot of small business owners have is just having everything in their head and not wanting to relinquish control over certain things and putting stuff on paper. If you come at it from a mindset of these are my ideas, these are my thoughts on how I want things to run if I were doing them.
Yes.
And I'm going to now have someone follow these steps and then amend them and iterate and make it better. You might end up with a better process than if you were actually doing it yourself. I would take that as your sort of directional mindset, if you don't want to give up that piece. But then once you let go of it, you're going to realize how much better it can become without you there, and how much better the rest of your company can become.
And if you can get things on procedures and policies that other people now are comfortable in that framework and work, that allows you to then add on, create more, invent more. Whether, because sometimes the owner of the company may be really great at sales, but horrible at bookkeeping. Or the owner of the company could be fantastic at bookkeeping, horrible at sales. They have a fantastic product, service, but they're just not good at the front end. So
that's right.
Highlight and figure out what you're best at too, but you kind of need to get involved in every aspect and know it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So from a bank perspective, makes perfect sense. I think there's a lot of businesses that can benefit from more streamlined procedures as a marketer, we use it a lot for content and really breaking down complicated ideas of how to get those thoughts transferred, right? So communicating.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT has been a great tool for us in that way, where we can start with an idea that we have no idea where it's going, and it can help us to start formulating that path. And then we can take it from there and make it what we want. I mean, it's not automated to any degree. I mean, it's something that you really need someone that has subject matter expertise and an opinion or a personality or
I think
style.
you have to get the best out of it. You have to have the basis and the know-how to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can really critique it and get the most out of it for yourself.
Yeah. And I'd say once you start using it, you start realizing how it works, then you can start to get really smart about how you use it as a tool. That's where it really starts to bloom and become something that is a great resource. It will take a lot off your plate very quickly.
I can tell a lot of companies, especially banks, they're really excited about AI as far as, you still have your FAQ section, but ultimately having the chatbot that can answer majority of your questions and everything. Yeah. That's a great aspect. It's
that kind of goes back to the procedural thing too, to have a well-trained chatbot.
I mean, to have that
well-trained
chatbot, yes, you had to have given it the inputs and given the possible answers to that and how they correlate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of continuation is the basis, and it'll only evolve and continue to get better and better. But, that's with anything. I don't care what it is. It's garbage in, garbage out. So, I mean, if you're putting garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So you need to know what you're doing in the first place.
Yeah. Before we get into looking at what ChatGPT tells us of how small businesses can use AI for expansion, I would say one other idea is that is probably more fundamental, and it is spend some time as the business owner learning ChatGPT to start, because there's other tools out there. Learn how it works, utilize it, figure out the applications, understand it. Or if there's someone in your organization that is picking it up very quickly, talk to them, have conversations over lunch about it. And then the next step would be, however comfortable you feel about this, I think some people feel perfectly comfortable with it, is tasking your department heads or, managers or whoever's maybe a domain expert in your company for certain things, tasking them with bringing you new ways to use AI for their particular department.
Yes. And that's the thing, is having that conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's, I got to start at the basis of, look, you cannot put you can't put any proprietary information in, but you can talk about how to handle this situation and having ideas of, okay, you've tolerated this. I mean, it could go as far as the teller line, I'm sure, as we develop and let them know, like, here are some of the capabilities. Now, knowing the capabilities not in your role, in your day, we're all
how
ears.
Can you use this?
If there's something that speeds you up and makes this more efficient and better quality and better service, what is it? So,
And I think the reason you want to do that is because you want to deepen the ownership of that person in their role and their responsibility. So if you have good people, and some people may not feel comfortable doing this because they don't know where it's going to go, but if you have good people and you trust that they have the company's best interest in mind, it's going to yield really, really good results for the company at large. Because number one, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I trust you enough to kind of spearhead this for the department, for our company, and you're going to grow our company in a way that we don't even know yet based on what you're going to find. And it's also going to change your role. And I'm telling you to trust me that I want this to change your role for the better, because I think that you're good enough to adapt with it. That I don't want you to go find AI to replace your role and what you do, but I want it to replace some of the things you do, so I can give you other things, or so that you can tell me what to give you that's other than that, that makes the company better. Because it's not about replacing a person, really. It's about getting rid of the stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
I'm like, how happy an employer would be if their employee says, here, you've been paying me $25 an hour, and I just figured this out to replace it 100%. They're not going to fire you.
Right. And if they do, then you can go to another company, assume you don't have a non-compete, and tell them,
fire your non-compete
and tell them
anyway. So,
hey, I found that you can do this. Do you want to show you how it works? They're going to want to see it. And then you show them. And now they want to hire you as what is called the knowledge worker because you know how to do something they don't know how to do. And so they're probably going to hire you and pay you more. And they're going to take you down the path that we're talking about right now that a company should take their employees down. But how edifying would it be for an employee to go find a replacement for some work that they're doing that they don't want to do, even so, and now sit back and say, okay, well, how can my role adapt and change, evolve over time for the better of the company, for the better of me as a person who wants to grow and learn. I mean, I think that's really the stage that we're at, and the opportunity that companies have. Yeah. Kind of at our doorstep.
Because really it hits all aspects. And I think, first blush, people are so excited on the sales aspect. Yeah, that doesn't excite me because I know everybody's gonna be on sales aspect. So if everybody's on there, then you're not gonna set yourself apart. Everybody's using AI for lead generation on LinkedIn. Drives me freaking nuts.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna answer anybody on there.
Yeah, in that
I don't
way,
know them.
It's just like any other tool.
Correct. And so I think most people are looking at that, quick hit. How can I use AI to generate this? But everybody's going to do that. I think they need to look at it on all the operations sides, all the compliance sides, and really embed it and looking into that operations.
How I think about using it is sort of like, to give an analogy, it would be like I'm in my office, I have this problem, and then I have the self-awareness enough to say, hey, I'm going to phone a friend, or I'm going to ask somebody, but that somebody is literally at my fingertips. I can say, hey, come in my office, sit down. Here's the problem I'm having, help me figure out, well, yes, but consider that their side is this, and yes, but consider that this happened, and remember this. It's complicated, right? And that person's going to be able to weed through it all and say, well, here are three things.
Give me the viewpoint of the buyer, the seller, the operator.
Right, exactly. That's where you start to really get the full, depth of how this tool can help you. Okay, so we're going to now ask ChatGPT. This is the paid version. How can small businesses use AI for expansion? First thing it says, it gives me kind of categories. Customer service automation, chatbots, mentioned that before. Talks about virtual assistants with scheduling reminders. So I'm assuming it means using virtual assistants who are using AI. Marketing and sales, personalized marketing, to analyze customer data and behavior to create personalized marketing campaigns. We've done some of this. There's actually a company that is in the process of forming, called Data Factory. And what they do is you can give them a list of contacts. This kind of goes to your sales piece, and it will do research on certain data points that you want to find. Right. So you can go, and it's really about how creative you can be. That's the limitation of the tool, is it's only limited by how creative you can be.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. You got to know what data points truly do move the needle, because, AI is not going to necessarily know the data points to move, because, data points change with perceptions of, the flow of the consumers too.
Most people want to take something and abuse it for scale, because they're like, oh, this is going to solve everything. We're just going to light it on fire. And then you actually ruin your reputation, or you ruin your chance for profit. But I think it's really more about understanding the tool and how can you creatively use it to get the attention in a new way with your audience. So for us, we want to do more video. If we can look out and use their tool to look at a certain, vertical and say, of all of these contacts, how many of them are using video on their website? Right. And if he can come back and tell us, yes, they have video. And if we can go even further and say it's a video testimonial that says this, then we can look at those personalized pieces of data that come back and create customized messaging to reach out and talk to them about the service that we offer. Now, first of all, we have to know that these type of people are going to want the service we have. We have to already have that. So if we do this research now, it does help us to scale the prospecting element of that front end piece, but it can't just be put on autopilot. It takes a lot of heavy lifting to get the right data points back, said the right way, and then utilize the right way.
And feedback, because those data points do change. So you're going to have to come back and change his feedback. So it will involve you.
Yeah. Other ones are customer insights, analyzing customer data, market research, like I was just talking about, operational efficiency, process automation, and supply chain automation.
And the things that...
Or optimization, sorry.
And maybe you have a better insight than I do. I mean, assume AI is taking the knowledge of everything on, the website. The websites throughout. That's where it's continually gaining its knowledge, right? Screen scraping everything.
And papers that have been like white papers, knowledge pieces.
Yeah. But you and I both know everything. I mean, what's the percentage of everything that it's reading that is actually factual?
That's the part. Like
we don't know, so it's going to be hard to disseminate. Is it saying, well, it said it was true 8 out of 10 times, so I'm going to go with that side. But, the majority's not always right either. So that's where it's going to really take in your own, really insight and your own view of the world and, and how everybody operates. Because, I have a belief the majority of people, when they put stuff online, that's not their true intention. They're looking, that's what they know is going to be seen.
Yeah.
So how much of that is accurate? Probably very little bit.
Yeah.
So that's true. May help you out with some insight, but it's truly not, given into it. It's the same thing with, banks where less transactions are happening at physical locations. Know that. But, there's not many truly digital banks starting because ultimately I still have people that have maybe never walked into a bank branch that we've opened up accounts, online. We've talked to them, but they still want to know how many branches you have.
Yeah.
So I don't care what the statistics say. It is still better off. Consumers like to know that you have physical locations.
Yeah.
But I don't see that anywhere written down or anything in there. But I know that. I see it,
Yeah, it would have to pull those insights from studies that have been done.
Correct.
Right.
And
you have to.
And those studies are going to be the minority of things, but that's
there's other filters that has to go through for it to be true for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Financial management, risk assessment, helping do financial risk by analyzing historic data, predicting future financial performance. I'd be careful on that one.
Yeah. There you go.
Expense management, track and categorize expenses automatically. I think a lot of repetitive tasks that you're doing in your company.
If the financial performance
can help with that.
If that's as good as an economist, we're going to be right 1 out of 10.
Yeah, right. Recruitment, streamlining the recruitment process, screening resumes, scheduling interviews. That's a huge one. I think that is, again, you have to set up your own structure for how you want to utilize the tool in that process, but it can take a lot of time off of your HR person's plate or whoever.
Well, too, and then I find that's the best way to find, like, in this day and age, because, Void, you just hear the main points. Give me those people that have hit that. Then you get there. There's no other profiling than what you wanted best for your positions. And then what you go from that pool, that can't be any better.
Right. Well, if you like this episode, then stick around for the next one, because we're going to use ChatGPT for our loan or no loan scenario, which we haven't done in a little while.
All right. Let's see that. See you on the next one.
Yeah.